Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of First Maccabees, the 8th chapter. Now Judas had heard of the Romans, how that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came onto them. Now, these Romans here, it doesn't state explicitly, and it's pretty difficult to try and trace throughout history to find out, at what point Esau took them over completely to where now, because, over time, the original Romans, just like the original Greeks, were Japhetic, right? They were brown-skinned people. But at some point in time through history, Esau took that over, and then, you had your Edomites, right? So, I believe that during this time here, these Romans were still Japhetic. You may have had Edomites around, all right, but not so much so in positions to be taking over, right, and running things just yet, simply because of the, when you look at the relationship here and the way that Israel dealt with them, here at least in making a league with them, as we're about to read in First Maccabees, it just makes more sense that way. But nonetheless, let's go into this chapter, right? So verse 2, it says, "And that they were men of great valor," speaking about the Romans here. "It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute, and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and gold which is there, and that by their policy and patience they had conquered all the place, though it were very far from them. And the kings also that came against them from the uttermost part of the earth, till they had discomfited them." So anybody that tried to come against them, they ended up getting the upper hand and winning against them. "And given them a great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year." So having conquered them, they made them tributaries, and they would receive tribute of them yearly. "Beside this, how they discomfited in battle Philip and Perseus, king of Sittims," which here is referring to Macedon, because these were Macedonians. All right, I'm going to pull that up in a second. But it says here, "with others that lifted up themselves against them and had overcome them." Now, this Philip here, when you go into secular history, is dealing with, let me look it up here. I believe it's Philip the Fifth of Macedon. Yeah, so it says here, Philip the Fifth was the king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedon from 221 to 179 BC. Philip's reign was principally marked by the social war in Greece and a struggle with the emerging power of the Roman Republic. He would lead Macedon against Rome in the First and Second Macedonian Wars. While he lost the latter, being the Second Macedonian War, against Rome, Philip later allied with Rome against Antiochus III in the Roman Seleucid War. He died in 179 BC from illness after efforts to recover the military and economic conditions of Macedonia, and passed the throne to his eldest son, Perseus of Macedon. So they were both basically had to succumb to the Romans. So here, peace treaty with Rome. In 196 BC, Philip signed a peace treaty with the Romans. As per the treaty, Philip V had to relinquish his claim to all Greek cities in the mainland and Asia Minor, including the fetters of Greece, Corinth, Chalcis, and Demetrius. He could also no longer harvest timber in the territory under his control. This effectively meant he could not build up an arsenal of weapons, such as large naval vessels. Following the peace treaty, Philip cooperated with the Romans and provided material support for their wars against the Spartans under Nabis in 195 BC. Philip V also supported the Romans against Antiochus III the Great and the Aetolian League. After the Roman Seleucid War, the Romans allowed Philip V to keep territory he had conquered such as Demetrius and the Magnesian coastline of Thessaly, parts of Athemania, parts of Dolopia, parts of um, Parhabia, and a number of towns in the Malian Gulf. So anyway, just going to show you, like going back, that's the Philip here and his son Perseus that is referring to that the Romans ended up defeating. Verse 6, how also Antiochus the Great, the king of Asia, that came against them in battle, having 120 elephants with horsemen and chariots, and a very great army, was discomfited by them. And that Antiochus is Antiochus the Third, the Great, which we read even mention of him here, right? Philip V also supported the Romans against Antiochus the Third, the Great. He warred against Rome, right, and he lost. Okay, and I've mentioned that many times, and you can read about it here. Hence, he signed the Treaty of Apamea and so on. Where we at? Right, verse 7, and how they took him alive and covenanted that he and such as reigned after him should pay a great tribute. That is a part of that treaty, and give hostages, and that which was agreed upon. And that's how Antiochus ended up being a hostage. That's how Demetrius ended up being a hostage. It was all through that treaty. And the country of India and Media and Lydia, and of the goodliest countries which they took of him, and gave to King Eumenes. Moreover, how the Grecians had determined to come and destroy them, and that they, having knowledge thereof, sent against them a certain captain, and fighting with them slew many of them, and carried away captives their wives and their children, and spoiled them, and took possession of their lands, and pulled down their strongholds, and brought them to be their servants unto this day. So basically a lot of their valiant acts. It was told him, that is Judas, being informed about the Romans, how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all other kingdoms and isles that at any time resisted them. But with their friends and such as relied upon them, they kept amity, and that they had conquered kingdoms, both far and nigh, in so much as all that heard of their name were afraid of them. Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reigned. So whoever they wanted to set up, those would be the ones that would reign. Kind of like the situation with Demetrius and Antiochus, as he kept saying, look, let me set me up back up. They said, nope, we rather the boy king. He's weaker. We want him to remain in power there, which didn't last too long, but and whom again they would, they displace. So whoever they wanted to take out of power, they would. Finally, that they were greatly exalted. Yet for all this, none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. Keeping in mind, as we read, they mentioned the Roman Republic, right? Because Rome used to be a kingdom where they did have kings, but I believe it was due to they eventually got fed up, right, of having kings because of the abuse of power. Okay, and I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the rape of was it Lucretia? If you look that up, see the rape, which was by, let's see, Lucretia, Rome, and you can read about that. Yep. It says here, according to Roman tradition, Lucretia angelicized as Lucrece, anyway, was a noblewoman in ancient Rome. Sextus Tarquinius, the king's son, raped Lucretia, and her subsequent suicide precipitated a rebellion that overthrew the Roman monarchy and led to the transition of Roman government from a kingdom to a republic. After Tarquin raped Lucretia, flames of dissatisfaction were kindled over the tyrannical methods of Tarquin's father, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, the last king of Rome. As a result, the prominent families instituted a republic, drove the extensive royal family of Tarquin from Rome, and successfully defended the republic against attempted Etruscan and Latin intervention. So basically, they were like, we're not doing no kings anymore. Hence, you went from from a kingdom to a Roman republic, and then back to where you had the emperors. But that's why they assassinated Julius Caesar, right? Because he crossed that boundary of becoming a dictator, and they were like, nah, dog. Hence, they came up with a whole senate and everything for that very purpose, because they were not trying to have one person have too much power. So, where are we at? Verse First Maccabees 8:15. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house, which is the Senate, the same concept in which you have today, right? Wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting always for the people, to the end they might be well ordered, right? So they would discuss matters, bills, laws, whatever it is for governing the people. And this way, it wasn't just like an abuse of power by one man, like tyrannically, and that they committed their government to one man every year, who ruled over all their country. And it's like today you have a president that reigns for 4 terms, or sorry, for a term, which is 4 years. Back then, it was for 1 year. Okay, when you had the consul, as it says here, who ruled over their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them. And they ended up usually having 2 consuls of 2 sides. Imagine like you had a Democratic president and a Republican president, and they both had the power to veto each other. So they did that because in that case, if one person wanted to do something just in their favor, the other could veto it. And so the only time they would agree if what they were trying to do was in, at least that was the idea, was in the best interest of the nation as a whole in its entirety, and not just for the richer class like the patricians, or for the poorer class, which were the plebeians. Verse 17, in consideration of these things, Judas chose Eupolemus, the son of John, the son of Achos, and Jason, the son of Eleazar, and sent them to Rome to make a league of amity and confederacy with them. So they wanted to make an alliance with them, and to entreat them that they would take the yoke from them. For they saw that the king of the Grecians did oppress Israel with servitude. See? So they went and sought an alliance with Rome for help against the Grecians, as, for example, we just read about the things that Demetrius had commissioned them to do. They went therefore to Rome, which was a very great journey, and came into the Senate, where they spake and said, Judas Maccabeus and his brethren, and the people of the Jews have sent us unto you to make a confederacy and peace with you, and that we might be registered your confederates and friends. So that matter pleased the Romans well. And this is the copy of the epistle which the Senate wrote back again in tables of brass, and sent to Jerusalem, that there they might have by them a memorial of peace and confederacy. So that would be like like the official, record of it, that they have it there. Like, hey, this is, you can look at it and see your alliance with Rome. Good success be to the Romans and to the people of the Jews by sea and by land forever. The sword also and the enemy be far from them. If there come first any war upon the Romans or any of their confederates throughout all their dominion, the people of the Jews shall help them, as the time shall be appointed with all their heart. So these were the terms of the agreement. If anybody comes to war against the Romans, the Jews will come and help them with all their power at whatever time they need. Neither shall they give anything unto them that make war upon them. So if any nation that is at war with Rome, you will not assist them, or aid them with victuals, no food, weapons, no weapons, money, or ships, as it hath seemed good unto the Romans. But they shall keep their covenants without taking anything thereof. So basically, it'll be your duty. If Rome is in need of help, you come and help them. You don't assist the Roman adversaries, and this is a part of the alliance. So it's not like you don't expect anything in return from it, right? As in, like, we're not going to pay you for that. In the same manner, also, if war come first upon the nation of the Jews, the Romans shall help them with all their heart, according as the time shall be appointed them. Neither shall victuals be given to them that take part against them, or weapons, or money, or ships, as it hath seemed good to the Romans. But they shall keep their covenants, and that without deceit. So this is like, if you're allies, right? If I need help, you come help me. If you need help, I'll come help you. According to these articles, did the Romans make a covenant with the people of the Jews. Howbeit, if hereafter the one party or the other shall think to meet, to add or diminish anything, so to alter it, they may do so at their pleasures. And whatsoever they shall add or take away shall be ratified. So you want to make amendments, that's free to do. And as touching the evils that Demetrius doeth to the Jews, we have written unto him, saying, wherefore thou made thy yoke heavy upon our friends and confederates the Jews. So why are you oppressing them? If therefore they complain any more against thee, we will do them justice and fight with thee by sea and by land. So you better back off, because if they send us word again, we're coming to war with you. And that brings us to the end of the book of 1 Maccabees, the 8th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rechak Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.